Register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Those are the voices of the unheard. Those are the sounds of the unheard. The shattered window, the broken glass, overlaid by the sounds of the retaliation of the police forces, using rubber bullets to inflict even more harm on top of the damage that they have already inflicted. That is the sound of Minneapolis responding to the murder of George Floyd at the hands of 4 police officers, including Derek Chauvin. This is what happens when the people who have been given authority over us refuse to acknowledge the humanity and the dignity over the people. And the people have the right to respond and let these. We have every right to let those in authority understand that they cannot abuse their power over us. And for too long and in too many instances, in every single city across this country, in every single year of this country's existence, the police state has been abusive and oppressive to Black people. Even now as I speak, I can't help but to think about the disparate treatment of Black people in the city of New York underneath the leadership of 2 Democrats, the New York City Mayor, Bill de Blasio, Andrew Cuomo, the Democratic governor, both of whom, look at what happens in New York. When Black people fail to social distance, the police come in like the Gestapo and crack down and abuse and brutalize and beat Black people into submission. On the other side of town, white people who do not social distance get the red glove, the white glove, red velvet treatment. This has happened in our country throughout the existence of our country, and it is only a matter of time before the people who are oppressed turn on the people who are in authority. So I'm sorry, I have no criticisms for how the people in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, choose to express their anger. It was only a matter of time before this happened. And all these people who are so aggrieved because a Target was looted shows us that you have more concern for material goods than you do human life, and therein lies the problem. You have never listened to the cries of the oppressed when they are civil. And because you would not listen to our civility, you will see our civil unrest.
I think we've got to see that a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the economic plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years.
The problem is that you have been more concerned about material goods and material wealth than you have been about human life. You have had zero regard for the lives that have been taken, including a personal friend of mine, Corey Jones, the lives of friends, real people with real families. This is the international problem as well. You have zero regard for the people on whom you drop bombs. You don't see them as human. You see them as nothing more than collateral damage in your plight to get economic and political power. And that same attitude that you have abroad is clearly being seen at home. You have no regard. You care more about a Target superstore than you do the lives of Black people who have been brutally killed by the policing agencies in this country. Shame on you, America. And now you're all concerned because these have evolved into riots. And I'm saying evolved because it's finally time for us to realize that we cannot play by the rules of the ruling elite. The rules of the ruling elite are never meant to empower us. They are meant to control us. We cannot get the victories that we need playing by their rules because they have never intended to deal in good faith with us in the first place. No matter how many things you do correctly, no matter how much you play their game by their rules, they never intended for you to be able to get full liberation. And so if the ruling elite and their paid propagandists want to shed tears this morning because some buildings are burning and because some police cars are broken and some glass has been shattered and some stores have been looted, well, that's just too goddamn bad because you said nothing. In fact, you caused the harm in our communities. You plundered our communities. You extracted all the wealth from our communities and left us destitute and in despair. You profited off of our pain and our despair. So spare us your tears this morning as your temples of capitalism come crumbling down. We've been terrified in this country for far too long. It's about time you shared some of that fear. Listen to this clip from one of the mouthpieces, one of the leading propagandists for the ruling elite, trying to make everyone so concerned because the people have arisen.
So that's what rioting looks like. It happened last night. As you can see, it's happening right now. We want to be clear, we're not showing you these pictures to defend the behavior of individuals on the Minneapolis Police Department. We're not. We're defending society itself. Rioting is the one thing you don't want. Ugly opinions, police brutality, officious bird watchers, rude entitled ladies walking their dogs in big city parks, all of that is bad. But none of it is nearly as bad as what you just saw. The indiscriminate use of violence by mobs is a threat to every American of all colors and backgrounds and political beliefs. Democracy cannot exist when people are rioting. Rioting is a form of tyranny. The strong and the violent oppress the weak and the unarmed. It is oppression.
Did you hear this propagandist compare rioting to police brutality? Saying police brutality is bad, but rioting is worse. I need people to understand something. The people aren't rioting. As someone said on Twitter, the police rioted. The people are not criminals. The police are criminals. The people are merely responding to the abuse of power that has been wielded over black people for far too long throughout the entire existence of this country. Name me a year. Name me a year when there was not some measure of systemic oppression led by the policing agencies in this country. You cannot do it. And so if you just casually say that police brutality is bad, well, that's because you're a person who is the beneficiary of it and you have never had to experience it. You have not lost a friend, a loved one, a father, a mother, a brother to police brutality. So how dare you tell us in your pompous, arrogant, bourgeois, cosmopolitan looking ass, tell us that police brutality is bad, but rioting is worse. Real oppression and real tyranny is when the people who have the authority to kill you wield it cavalierly without any regard for your life, without any regard for your voice, without any regard for your rights or your liberties. That is oppression. And that is quite literally what we, the people, have the right to rebel against them. Don't believe me? Watch. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature's God entitle them. And decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men and women and non-gender conforming individuals are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form. In other words, we have the right to rebel against any oppressive government by virtue of the very document that formed this government. And if you will not hear the civil cries of the people, then you most certainly will be the recipient of the uprising of the people.
Hi, Benjamin. My name is Salima, and I'm from New York. And one of the things on my mind today is this idea of civility. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to curse on your show, but I don't give a shit about civility anymore. And I think that civility is something that is used to really silence people, people who want revolution and, they want things to change, but they want it done in a peaceful way. I don't know that we can do this in a peaceful way anyway. And watching the Minneapolis riots, it actually makes me feel like, you know what, people are hurting. And this is finally people are able to use their voice, and then people are saying, stop the looting, stop the rioting, stop. You know what? People are angry, so this is how I'm feeling. Fuck civility. Fuck that idea. And, it's time to speak truth to power and to speak up and express how we really feel. Fuck what you heard.
Hello, this is Ryan Green from San Bernardino, California. And I wanted to make a statement today kind of about how we need to focus this back towards the police state. There's so many times where there's these riots and they're used by politicians later on to get something from the public to either buy into their sympathies or to remember people that law and order is only justified for the police. They use law and order to keep people in their place. Kamala Harris famously did this in California when the Baltimore riots were going on. She tried to use the 23rd anniversary of the LA riots to convince people that police were actually doing a better job now, and that they had some kind of control on their communities, when in fact, we had seen the largest militarization of police, in those last 23 years than we ever had before. And it's just very scary, and we need to remember the cops are not our allies, and those politicians that use the police as some kind of guiding light for society need to be called out when they do that. Thank you so much.
Good morning. This is Marcus from Durham, North Carolina. My feelings on the recent incidents in Minnesota is that it's not surprising, because when you look at structure and actually question the reason why people are losing, you come to find out the resulting factor, and the answer is because of the environment and the interesting ways in which structure plays a place into people's lives. I think it's very important that we keep a laser-like focus on social policy and the reason for people doing things, not necessarily, they're doing things and it's harmful and they're looting, right? And so this whole focus on looting, in my mind, is almost a connection back to the inextricably linked the ways that capitalism is in our life. People are more focused on things that can be replaced instead of the reason why, which in this case was somebody being killed at the hands of the constabulary. And so instead of focus on that, we're more concerned about the looting, they're blowing banks and things. Those things have insurance, and those things can be replaced. But we also should remember that lives can't. Thank you. Great day.
Yeah. Lives cannot be replaced. Lives, the most precious thing that we have is our life. And I know that's obvious, but it's not obvious to a nation that indiscriminately drops bombs globally without any regard for human life. The number one problem is the fact that we are led by sociopaths. We are led by people who have no qualm about killing thousands and millions of people across this globe. So what do you think they're going to feel if a police officer kills 1 or 2 or 3 niggas? Do you think they actually care about that when throughout the history of this country, we have built our prosperity on the backs of the people through mass genocide, through slavery, through oppression, through Jim Crow, through dropping bombs indiscriminately across the globe? You think they actually care about the humanity of the people that they have to crush at home to get their political ends achieved? America talks about peace, but when has America ever achieved anything it wanted through peace?
You don't get freedom peacefully. Freedom is never safeguarded peacefully. Anyone who is depriving you of freedom isn't deserving of a peaceful approach by the ones who are being deprived of their freedom. And when black people in this country come out from under the mental straitjacket that the Negro clergymen have placed them in, and begin to see that the only way you can get freedom is to get it the same way the white man in this country got it from England, or he says he got it from England. He was willing to pay the price for freedom. When you're willing to pay the price for freedom, then you'll get it. But the Negro in this country has never been willing to pay the price for his freedom. All of the price that we have been paying in the past has been freedom for the white man. We fought abroad so that the white man in America could be free today to sick police dogs on us, to beat our people in the heads with police clubs, and to turn water hose on little women and children and babies simply because they want to walk down the street like decent human beings. That's now the only way you can have peace is to eliminate those injustices, and the American white man is not going to eliminate them. He's going to talk that pretty talk.
They will talk. America talks that pretty talk and then drops bombs as soon as they can't get their economic ends achieved in another nation. What we have to get in this country will not be achieved by playing by the rules established by the ruling elite, because they have an advantage, they have a head start, and they never want to give us the opportunity to catch up. That is America. All right, when we come back, the patron party and a lot more of your voicemails.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon
Here we
Show.
go. At this point in every single episode, no matter what's going on in the world, I like to take a minute to thank those who make this show possible. Very special welcome to Michael Cohen. Thank you for becoming a patron. Kendall Beverly, thank you for becoming a patron. Hunter, thank you for becoming a patron. Mark Fritz, thank you for becoming a patron. Oh, everybody bop. Very special welcome to Chanel Webb. Thank you for becoming a patron. Trey Duncan. Ezeum, thank you for becoming a patron. Coulter, thank you for becoming a patron. Soldier 182, thank you. Ted, thank you. Malcolm Berry, thank you. Maurice Hayden, thank you. Heather Martin, thank you. And Evan, thank you for becoming a patron. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content, uncut, unfiltered, unedited interviews, and none of the corporate capitalistic advertisements like you have to suffer through right here.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Yeah.
Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Let's go. All right. Let's get back. I want you to listen to this clip of the brother of George Floyd. He was on with Cuomo on CNN. I forget, Chris Cuomo on CNN. Take a listen into this.
Did any of the cops, did you hear them talking to each other about why they couldn't just move him and get him out of the situation?
Bro, they wanted to kill that man, bro. Like, I'm gonna be 100, bro. They didn't speak. They didn't say nothing. The views in his eyes, bro. The man that had his knee on his chest, bro. He knew what he was doing. His shimmies in my man's neck, bro. He knew what he was doing. It's just like having a jiu-jitsu choke. If I'm here, I'm shimmying, boom, my choke's on there. I told him it was a blood choke. He knew it was a blood choke. He looked at me when I said it. He put his head down. He did not make any more gestures. He did not say any other thing. And the two other cowards that was on the other side of the car, I didn't know nothing about. I didn't know about until I got videos in my social media and things like that. So they was intent to smother my man and kill my man. And I seen it. I seen it in his eyes. I seen it in his demeanor. And I seen it in their movement. And Officer Tao didn't partake in it, but he had control of what was going on the other side of that car for me not to see what was going on. Because the people that know me personally, the most control they ever seen in my life, as I'm seeing another man that looked like me, that feels like me, that got the same complexion as me, lose his life to another man that had no senseless. He had no feeling. He had no remorse. He had in him. He had no feeling. I don't even think he had a heart at that moment. And he's going to feel that for the rest of his life. Just like I'm going to hear my man say this. I can't breathe. I want my mama. And I'm coming to find out that this man who died 2 years on the day that his mom died, I'm a mama's boy, bro. It's like that hurts me deep down inside, bro. And like something needs to be done, or something needs to be done.
Hi, my name is Gabriel. I live in New York. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I just wanted to say I completely support the protests going on. I say loot the hell out of that place. Don't get caught. Protect your brothers and sisters. Live to protest another day. You know, do what you can. Get what you can. Say what you can. Stay safe because they're not going to be nice to the people they're taking down now. Good luck.
This is Melissa from Atlanta. What am I feeling? This needs to stop. Every week, cops are killing Black men and women, and nobody bats an eyelash. It's just become normalized in our society. So I am glad that finally we get to show our rage, and I am proud of every single person out there that is rioting. And when people bring up the looting, who cares? Target, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, who cares? I hope they continue to destroy all these giant corporations that need to be robbed. Like, eat the rich. Sorry, no pity here.
Hi, my name is Julian. I'm from San Jose, California. I just had a few thoughts about the huge media thing that's been going on about the looting situation happening in Minnesota. The fact that media wants to focus so much more on the looting instead of the fact that a Black man named George Floyd was killed by a police officer for no reason. But I also think that the idea that looting is violent and the fact that people going into these stores and stealing objects, property that are in a stockpile in the middle of the store, that's violent. And to quote some people that I've been seeing, which I don't agree with, savage, to make people look less than for doing this, particularly Black people. But I want to go into something that Vicky Osterweel said in an article she wrote for the New Inquiry, something about how looting is extremely dangerous to rich people and like white supremacy, because it kind of shows that private property it's just an idea, and being able to take back that territory and plunder these like huge stockpiles of capitalist material is very political and revealing about how our society functions. But yeah, I would also say that that's a great article to show anybody, Vicky Osterweel's article in the New Inquiry. I think it's called In Defense of Looting. She makes a really great case of how looting is very political. And I would really recommend reading it.
Pretty white TT, pretty white TT, pretty white TT, pretty white TT, pretty white TT.
So I say it again, fuck you racist white people. I said what I said, and if you don't fucking like it, go suck a dick. Seriously.
And that was the voice of the actor John Boyega, I believe. Is that how you pronounce his last name? Somebody tell me if that's correct. But Boyega, he is the Black man who made everyone, a lot of Star Wars fans infuriated because he was a Black stormtrooper and whatever the case may be. But he's had enough across the pond. Something about profanity with that British accent that just it's amazing. It's just there's no better way to cuss without than to have a British accent. But not all Black people are on board with what's going on. Take a listen to Coontastic Supremette Candace Owens as she feels it necessary to refer to Black people as trained chimpanzees.
They didn't pretend that somehow having a broken language, having broken down families was a symbol of who we are. And that is so unique to Black America. I won't subscribe to it. If that people say that's how you have to be Black, That's how you have to be black. Listen to your psychological conditioning. If to be black, you can't speak in proper English or you're acting white, right? To be black, you instantly have to jump up like a fucking trained chimpanzee, excuse my language, like a trained chimpanzee every single time the media runs a story and act angry and riot and talk about how pained you were to see this happening to black people, but keep your mouth shut, right? When it happens black on black, because if you talk about the black on black crime, you're a race traitor, right? To be black, you need to celebrate LeBron James. You got to say that you want to be a football star, right? LeBron James, the greatest, right? When you see someone like Dr. Ben Carson, Dr. Condoleezza Rice, you call that person a coon because they betrayed you. You want to know why? Because they're talking about economics. They've graduated and they've got tons of degrees. They're not being black enough. Don't listen to them. Listen to LeBron James when he throws in a Beto cap.
I'm laughing because every time she says train chimpanzees, I keep thinking that she needs to train them edges. She is the most self-hating, self-loathing black person on the face of the planet. She is the black white supremacist. And she's right. We do refer to her as a coon, and she will forever be known as a coon because she is a servant of white supremacy. All she does is collect checks on behalf of saying all of the racist things that her white colleagues and her white friends and her white boyfriend, fiance, or whatever he is, wants to say, but they can't get away with. So they hired her. They outsourced their racism through Candace Owens. And when they are all done with her, they're going to throw her away, just like they do everyone else, no matter what race. Once capitalism and corporatists and racists are done with you, this white supremacist structure in this country is done with you, it will cast you to the side. And there's no way in hell she's going to come back and get some love from black folks. And who's going to support her then? Because it's only a matter of time before she goes one step too far for conservatives. Right? She has to ever escalate her racism to get the attention and to get the paychecks. But after a while, even the Klan is going to be like, oh, hold on down there, Candace. I mean, I'm as much a racist as the next person, but nigger, you done gone too far. Take a step back there. And then what's she going to do? Oh, man. When this heifer runs into some real police brutality, does she work? She doesn't like Black Lives Matter. Don't worry, honey. When the police bash you across your head and remind you that you just another nigga in this country, you don't ever have to worry about us coming to march on your behalf because you is one black life that doesn't matter to us any more than our lives apparently mean to you, sister. All right. So that is going to be it. If you're listening live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're listening to the live stream at, that's it for the public show. If you want the whole hour and you're listening to the podcast version, stay tuned. Everybody, I have so many more voicemails, so much more commentary. So there's a whole nother half hour coming up after this. Everyone else, if you're listening on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, go to Spreaker.com, look for my show, or go to iTunes, go to listen to my show, go to iHeartRadio. You can listen to the show. You can listen to the show on what's that? The Spotify. The show is on Spotify. Wherever you go for podcasts, go and download the show. And while you're there, whatever platform you're on, do me a favor. Even if you can't become a patron, leave a comment, leave a review. Leave a review of the show. That will help out tremendously. If you like it or even if you hate it, leave a review. But that's it for the public show. Everyone else listening to a podcast version, you get the patron treatment today. The show continues after the music because there's so many more voicemails. I want to make sure that you get to hear every single one of them. And I've got a lot more on my chest that I got to get off of it. Thank you for being a beautiful audience. Everyone else, I will see you tomorrow. Here we go.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
All right, close the door, patrons. Let's get this party. Oh, well, the music wanted to bop a little bit more. Let's continue with the voicemails. I love hearing your voice. I love hearing your opinions. You can always leave me a voicemail no matter what time, day or night. I get it, and I can incorporate it into one of my shows, 857-600-0518. Take a listen in.
Hi, Ben. This is Binti from New York. My heart is very heavy. I haven't brought myself to watch the full video because it is just too painful. And I think Black people have gone through this so much that keep rewatching these videos continue to bring more trauma to us. So for my mental health, I haven't brought myself to watch the full video. But I do want to say a couple things. One, I know there are a lot of spiritual leaders that are headed down to Minnesota today to, pacify the people, to try to quell some of the tensions that are going on. I think to those leaders, they need to tread lightly because these are people that are hurt. And although for the families, prayer will bring comfort to them, these people do not need to be shamed or patronized. They are in a lot of pain. So if you want to go to offer counseling and grief counseling, that's one thing, but they do not need to be reprimanded at this point. I also looked to see what the presumptive Democratic nominee had to say about this, and he said that, quote, "We have to get to the root of all of this. We have to ensure that the Floyd family receive the justice they're entitled to. As a nation, we have to work relentlessly to eradicate these systematic failures that inflict so much damage on not just one family, one community, but on the people of color all across this nation." I'm going to say to the Biden campaign that I'm glad that he made a response to this, that it needs to be a lot stronger. This POC, people of color, let's keep it real. This is happening to Black and brown communities more than any other community, Asians and other communities of color. So as someone who's running for president, who's having battles with some of us in the Black community, with your Ewing Black statement last week, you need to come a little bit more forceful and say that we need to protect our Black brothers and sisters, as well as put this on your website, because I looked at the website and the first thing I saw, I think it said something like, "We know Joe." I don't know who's running his campaign, the digital part of it, but you need to get some young people on there. He needs to make a full-throated statement about this. It needs to be on the first page of the campaign. You need to rally up the troops. As you know, the Obama numbers going to vote for him are not the same as yours. So you need to, I know this is not a time for apologies, but you need to come off stronger and say, listen, I know I made some mistakes with the crime bill, but this is the tipping point. I will fight for you. I promise you when I'm in office.
Hey, Ben, this is Derek. How's it going? To be quite honest, I haven't been this angry in a long time, man. I grew up in St. Louis right outside of Ferguson, and seeing these images out of Minnesota, you get flashbacks, and I'm sure that you get that rage that comes roaring back. These events passed, but justice was never served here. What I want to say now is the same cannot happen in Minnesota. You can't let it stand. It's time to protect Black lives by any means necessary. And I say let them bitch and moan about the riots. I look at Ferguson, them stores came back, and their stores will come back. But George Floyd, on the other hand, he won't. So fuck them riots. Right now, what we're worried about is justice. And by any means necessary, it's time to start protecting Black lives. Thank you.
Hey, man, it's Tom from Detroit. At this point, I think we need to start moving in a direction where we start leaving folks behind and start saying, look, man, as far as all that capital that was burned in Minneapolis last night, man, I don't care what you motherfuckers want to call it. You can call it a riot. You can call it a fucking uprising. I would prefer you call it an uprising. But, bruh, they lost a Target, a AutoZone, a Wendy's, a McDonald's. I'm hearing reports the goddamn police department itself was burnt down. My nigga, it's just, it's time we stop asking, we stop mincing words. The terror is here. The terror is in our communities, and so it's time we start barking back, man. And, for everybody that want to mince words, okay, well, you know what? This is the time where the lines are going to be drawn. Tell me how you really feel about it. Keep talking while you at it. Because you know what?
Yep.
you know what? Hey, we ain't making no threats, but shit is happening. Shit is happening. That's all I gotta say, man. And people need to get real. People need to get real and figure out what side they on, because we ain't fucking around with y'all no more.
I don't want to say my name, but I'm from the South. But I just want to share my thoughts on the protests and looting, what they're calling it. A lot of times when there's a protest and the protest turn into looting or rioting or whatever they want to call it, the people involved will loot and riot small businesses and mom and pop stores and other people's houses, which doesn't make sense because those aren't the people who have actual power. But when you look at, if we believe that this country is run by large corporations, and we believe that the police enforce the law to protect the minority of the opulent, then it makes sense to loot and riot on large corporations whenever we're not getting justice. So I'm for looting and rioting on large corporations only. I just hope it stays with just Target or AutoZone or whoever, and it has to be tactical. It can't carry over to people who don't even have power in this system. So that's my thoughts on that.
I can see that. I can rock with that. Thank you so much for all the voicemails. Keep them coming in at 857-600-0518. And I agree. And it's this, what I'm getting ready to say has nothing to do with civility. It has everything to do with strategery. I'm sorry. It rhymed, so I had to put it there. Liberate Amazon. Liberate Walmart. The president of the United States talked about liberating entire states, right? Liberate these major corporations. The people, I mean, if you're going to do this, target these corporations who, honestly, they make more money if you loot them in the first place. There was an attorney on Twitter yesterday who went through the entire argument in terms of the procedure, in terms of their insurance, and the fact that most of these companies would never be able to sell their entire inventory in the first place. So getting the insurance company to cover the entire inventory, they end up making more money in the first place. This system is perfectly designed to protect and insulate corporations. And this is what I was thinking yesterday. Like I've always talked about on this show about how we have power as consumers. If we refuse to participate in this system as consumers, we could bring this system to its knees. But I also talk about how difficult that is because people love their widgets. People love their toys. They love their new TV, the new sheets, the new lamps. I saw a lady, one white lady, one Karen was coming out of, I don't know. She could have been a Karen, but she was coming out of Target with some new lamps. People love their stuff. And why people loot? It is consumerism cannibalizing itself. So part of me feels like perhaps it's not such a bad thing that people are such obsessed consumers, because the very first thing they do when they are angry is they turn that anger on these corporations. See, I have zero regard for corporations, none whatsoever. I have zero regard for this entire system. This entire system has been made to the benefit of corporations and wealthy white men, while the rest of us are out here left to starve and scrap for bits and pieces. And what I'm saying to some of you is hyperbole, because you're doing okay, and I get it. You're doing fine. Hell, I'm doing fine. Finally, for the first time in my life, I'm doing okay, right? But I've been hungry. I have had to make the decision to, let I don't want to put me and my brothers, we had to choose who was going to eat between us. All right. We've been in situations where we were hungry and go to bed at night hungry, sleeping on people's couches. So I've been there. And the only reason I bring that up is not for you to feel like I'm keeping it real, but for you to know that there are people who would have loved to be in my situation, even at that point. See, because it's not bad for you doesn't mean that it's not bad for a lot of other people. And it doesn't mean that the people who are out there looting are all like desperate. Some of them are just opportunistic consumers. And I'm still in my mind. I'm formulating. I'm like, man, that consumer spirit, man, that thing is really powerful when it turns on the system and it starts cannibalizing corporations vis-a-vis looting. Maybe that consumerism isn't too bad. Maybe that consumerism can be good to put to good use, but I digress. The point is while those people who are quote unquote looting, I call it the people's tax, while those people who are extracting the people's tax from corporations may not be that bad off, they may just be greedy consumers. The fact of the matter is, it is a statement to the system on behalf of the people who are broken. The people who are living, not just living paycheck to paycheck, but living in homeless shelters while they work 40 hours a week. I won't shed a tear. You don't shed a tear for the people who are devastated by the system. I will not shed a tear when people take your shit. Period.
When they got you, if it got you like this, then you just relax your body, breathe in deep, right? Not hard. I mean, you really kind of shallow, right? Because you want to stay alive, son. You want to stay alive, right? And you say, hey, I can't breathe, just in case somebody got a camera looking, and you just breathe, relax, let your body go limp, all right? I need you to stay alive, okay? This is what I taught my son this morning, America. What did you teach yours?
That video, if you've seen it, if you haven't, it's on my timeline. It's on my Facebook as well as Instagram. It is a father who is replicating the situation that killed George Floyd with his knee in his son's neck. But the knee was responsibly put, it was in a place where he wasn't going to kill his son, but he was trying to teach him. He was like, relax. He was trying to teach his son how to survive. Okay. And the truth of the matter is that we have to do that. We have to do that. Particularly as black men, we have to teach our black men how to survive a police encounter. It is also true, stay with me, it is also true for non-black people, because the police state, which started in the black community, is never going to be just limited to the black community. What started in the black community, the obscene, oppressive police state, which began in the black community, will inevitably spill over into your community. So you should be teaching your children how to survive this as well. The fact of the matter is, if their skin is not as melanin rich as ours, then they may not face it as often as the rest of us, or rather they won't face it as often as black men. But the reason I'm saying it in context of everyone being prepared for this police state is because this police state is here. Don't think for a second that if the mayor of that city had unleashed those police officers, that they would not have brutally cracked down in Minneapolis last night. They were just waiting and itching for the opportunity to use all of their weapons of mass destruction on the people. They would have loved to use their Humvees and their tanks and their live ammunition. Don't think that these bloodthirsty, we have trained up barbarians and given them badges and given them responsibility of protecting the peace. When all along, all they're looking for is for some heads to knock. And I don't care. Yeah, Ben, not all cops are bad. Yes, they are. You know why? Because where have you seen good cops actually come and expose? I've seen some some average cops, some lackluster cops who will step up and say that something is wrong. They will speak out. But when have you seen cops expose? That's because the culture, the police culture, is exactly what it has to be to protect this power structure. What happens is there's a level of disdain that is inculcated in the minds of every single policing agency, police precinct, city by city. It doesn't matter. There's a level of disdain that is a part of the police culture that makes a police officer who is working class believe that he is separate from the people who he's abusing. Because if the police force ever had some solidarity, if the policing agencies in this country ever got a bit of class solidarity about them, well, then they would, the rich, the ruling class would certainly abolish the police. Without question. Without question. So in order to maintain a police force that can enforce the will of the ruling elite, they had to make it a part of every single precinct's culture, a level of disdain for the people that they govern, that they rule over. And that is precisely how you get police officers who know that they are in the same goddamn condition as the black men that they're killing. This is how you get black officers who become better and more efficient executors of white supremacy because they're behind a badge, and that badge has inculcated them. They have been indoctrinated. They have been indoctrinated with the same disdain that a racist white person has for the black community. A black police officer brings the same goddamn thing to the black community. So that's why I say a pig is a pig no matter what color they are. Because they carry the same disgusting disdain for marginalized communities as any white supremacist would ever bring. And if you want to show me a good cop, show me a cop who actively exposes the criminality and the barbarity of their colleagues, and then we can talk. Yeah. There is a video. It has literally no audio. The sound in the video is nothing but ambiance and raindrops, right? So it makes no, I can't play it for you. But there is a video that has touched my heart to the point, I lie not to you, man. I had tears in my eyes when I saw that young Somali girl, an entire queen, run and pick up a canister of tear gas and soccer punt that bitch all the way back to the police officers who threw it. Oh my goodness. I wish I had a round of applause in here somewhere. I know I could sample one, but everybody ought to give her a round of applause from me, because I don't know who she is. And quite frankly, as much as I would like to know who she is, it's best that we don't find out who she is, because then she'll become a target. But just know that in Minneapolis, there was a young Somali queen who was fearless, who ran into the smoke without a mask, without a tear gas mask. All she had was a standard surgical mask. She picked up a flaming hot tear gas canister and kicked it back to the police officers and danced her way off the stage, floating like a butterfly, stung like a bee. I want you, please, if you don't do anything else today, go to my timeline and take a look at that video and just enjoy it. Matter of fact, I'm commissioning someone to draw. I want that done as a piece of artwork. So I've asked a friend of mine if she would draw it up. And if my friend is, she's super talented, super busy. If she's too busy, I'm going to get somebody else to do it. Because we stand a brave young queen. Something else that moved my spirit today is a tweet from an observer from Chile. She sent this out. She said, and this is Catalina Perea. She said, to my American friends, 3 spoons of baking soda per glass of water in a sprayer. Spray it around your face and the burning will go away. My advice based on my experience in protests in Chile. I just love that international solidarity, especially from people who, well, I mean, I don't even have to make that qualifier, right? I was going to say, especially from people who have been on the receiving end of American imperialism. But the fact of the matter is the entire fucking globe has been on the receiving end of American imperialism. And I know for a fact that there are people on the international stage who understand that there are people here in the United States who stand in solidarity with them. And while we may not be in positions of power to stop the oppression, the American oppression that has been exported abroad, we have always used our voices to fight against it as much as we could. And I know they're on the outside of this empire looking in, saying there has got to be a remnant of people who would fight against this tyranny, this imperialism. And they know if there's going to be anybody, it's going to be the people who are marginalized within the empire. And so I just feel like that there's an international solidarity, onlookers, people who see that the people they're fed up. Marginalized people in the United States are fed up. And again, I don't have to make this qualification because I don't condemn a single looter. Get that shit. Get it from Amazon too while you're at it. I don't care. Because I'm sorry. Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and all these billionaires have made an additional $434 billion during this pandemic, while essential workers are living and dying, sacrificing their lives for just about minimum wage. So you think I'm going to shed a tear because you go to a Walmart and take that shit? But I'm sorry. I got off topic for a second. I'm not going to condemn anybody who is out there, even if their motivation isn't some type of international solidarity. That's okay. Because the rest of us who know, we understand that the problem is American empire. It's American imperialism, which is the backbone of capitalism, global capitalism. It's not just America. It is capitalism, but the United States of America is literally the backbone of global capitalism. And that demon goes across the entire country, across the entire planet, seeking to and fro, looking for who it can devour. That's exactly what capitalism does. And so when I see, when I see that kind of solidarity from abroad, it warms my spirit. It warms my spirit because there is a community of people, an international community of people who all understand the score, understand what we're fighting against. And we're not just fighting, we're not fighting for a political party. We're not fighting for the blue team and the red team. We're fighting against the oppression that comes inevitably as a result of people seeking never-ending profit at the expense of workers, at the expense of labor, at the expense of our environment, at the expense of our natural resources. By any means, they do whatever it takes to capture the wealth of this planet, leaving everyone else in ravages, completely destitute. And then they look at us and tell us to behave ourselves and to be civil. Fuck you. So apparently there's an artist or somebody called Shamik Moore. I have no idea who this dude is. But this is something he tweeted out that I feel like is worthwhile talking about because why not? I've only got 5 minutes left. He said, we have to work on our own community before blaming everything on quote unquote racist and police. Number one, there is still black on black violence that needs to be addressed. And number two, if we know that the wrong white person could change our whole life with a false accusation. Let me keep reading this motherfucker's tweet. What else did he say? There's got to be more. Here he is. All right, here's the rest of it. He said, then why do we give them the energy they want? Give them an inch and they will take a mile. We literally know this already. And what point do we look at at what point do we look at ourselves and make adjustments? Okay. Now this guy is pretty much a nobody. I had to Google him to realize he was an artist, right? But it's just kind of indicative of what you still find in the black community. You find this in all marginalized communities. There's always going to be a group of people who have this respectability politics woven into their spirits. And it's not just this guy. You know what I mean? This attitude is there's still going to be people, generally black conservatives who think like this, black religious people, they tend to think like this. However, there is a very strong revolutionary strain in the black religious community. Like you hit the right nerve and they go from respectability to we'll burn this bitch down real quick. I mean, shit, look at me. All right. So, but you still have a contingency of Negro in this country who, above anything else, they think that it is the intelligent and the intellectual thing to reflect upon oneself, even while they're getting beat across the head by the police. Right? I for one, believe that it is always an essential, fundamental need for us to have self-reflection as individuals and a collective society. But when a nigga is hitting you across the head with a baton, you do not sit there and reflect on how I could be better. You take the baton out of your hand and hit them back. That's humanity 101. It is a false sense of wokeness. It is a false sense of wokeness. It is a false sense of intellectualism to suggest that as we are being beaten and killed by the police in this country and vigilantes in this country, as well as by the corporatist capitalist class in this country, sending us back out to work so that they can make their profit margins, while we are being abused and battered by this entire system, it is not time for us to say, well, before we can correct them, before we can stop them from killing us, we really need to take a minute to look at the black on black crime. Nigga, what is wrong with you? You steppin' fetchin' ass looking motherfucker. I'm sorry, folks. Just certain situations do not deserve well thought out intellectual arguments that are delivered in a very civil tone. Sometimes you just got to tell a motherfucker that you's a stupid motherfucker.
We'll make it up. You put us together. We'll make it up. You put us together. We'll make it up. You put us together.
That's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen, non-gender conforming individuals. Thank you for your voicemails. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for supporting the show. Be sure, even if you're a patron, go to Apple, iTunes, and podcast, whatever that system is called, and leave me a review. Leave me a review and make sure that you are subscribed no matter what platform you normally listen on. Go to another platform and subscribe. If you are listening to this and you're not a patron, listen to those commercials at the end of the episode. Don't skip over commercials because that actually helps out quite a bit. Now, if you don't want commercials, become a patron. Patreon.com/the BPD show. There's so many more things to discuss, so many more things happening, but our time has come to an end. So I would like to thank you for being a part of this journey with me as I filibuster for about 60 more seconds to get to my closing music. I want to tell you that I love you, that you are beautiful, that you are loved, that if nobody else likes you, I like you. I think you're fly. I think you're dope. I got about 10 more seconds. Tim, can I got 10 more seconds of affirmations in me? Oh, there's my music. Thank you for being a beautiful audience. Much love and respect. I'll see you next time.